Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through a 7-game slate. 7-game slate with, once again, a lot of injury information to walk through. Some star players potentially returning, some star players potentially missing, a lot of questionable tags on the show. It sounds like, based on chat, there's a very poor Josh Giddey picture highlighting the stream. So I'll have to talk to our content team. Apologies to those that are horrified by Josh Giddey. Mike, how are you on this fine Tuesday? It is. How are you?
Doing good. Yeah, a lot of presser notes to go over here. Big injury spot. We got Steph. We got Miamiing. We got the Clippers lineup change, injury stuff. There's a lot of really big injuries, even though it's a somewhat smaller slate.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Miami side of things. We did get an injury update on Miami. It was unfortunately not a great one if you like seeing the best basketball players out on the court. Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo will all miss tonight's game, in addition to Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson and Nikola Jovic. Gabe Vincent is probable. Udonis Haslem is questionable. Dwayne Dedmon is probable as well. They're pretty short-handed here against the Oklahoma City Thunder TNT game, apparently. What are your thoughts on how Miami tries to fill out the rotation in the absence of Kyle, Bam, and Tyler?
Yeah, so let's start with Bam. Hand injury, was really swollen, dealing with pain. He might miss additional time. And Spoelstra kind of had like a hunch to go with Orlando Robinson, and he played well. He played great. Kind of got them back in the game. He was basically getting like paraphrasing, but he described it much like when he looked at the coaching staff on the decision, it was the Kermit the Frog, Christian Bale, like nodding gif. Like they're like, oh yeah, let's do it. And it works. So I think Orlando Robinson's minutes are pretty safe. Should play in a great matchup, right? We always like to play bigs against OKC. So I think he's in a pretty good spot. And then Gabe Vincent, we've seen Gabe Vincent almost every time when Kyle, even when they have Hero, we've seen Gabe Vincent get the start and play a lot. Did a lot of corner standing when we took a bet over him the last time. So it'll be a lot of Jimmy running the offense, especially without Bam. They're going to have to change the whole flow of their offense here. But I would expect Gabe to pick up a little bit of ball handling. We saw Victor Oladipo really step up too. So he's another guy who's going to really benefit. Max Drew should play a bunch. They're just really tight. So the only question as we did the rotation, does Udonis Haslem play at all? And probably not. He's listed as questionable. So I would expect Robinson to pick up most of the center minutes. Dedmon behind him seems to be clearly ahead of him based on what Spoelstra was saying. Haywood Highsmith will be kind of the main on-ball defender, the sacrificial lamb on guarding SGA. Poor guy. So could be an SGA spot on the other side of this. But they're really shorthanded. We'll see how many minutes Jimmy Butler can get. This just it's the line move from I think 4.5 to +2 now for OKC. And we just got news on the Suns. DeAndre Ayton's out tonight.
All right. We will touch on that in a bit. We have Miami for basically an 8-man rotation now with 5 minutes for Udonis Haslem that we're waiting to see if those are viable or not, but also to just kind of cool off the rotation a little bit. 8-man rotation leads to a lot of value, leads to 30 plus minutes for a lot of guys on the floor tonight. So certainly you will be playing a lot of Miami Heat players in your DFS lineups. Mike, you're giving people a look behind the scenes here at your matchups notes.
Oh, whoops! I got the wrong. My bad. I got too many windows open.
Didn't know if you're going to give away the whole column there for
I got like too many tabs open here. That's my bad. Yeah, that's what I do.
Yep.
I got these rundowns, and if you guys want to see, this is the kind of madness I do for matchups and stuff. I run through every freaking presser, take notes on it. It's pretty psychotic.
That's what makes
I'm a crazy.
That's
person.
What makes you as good as you are. All right, let's get into. Well, let's go to Golden State. Steph Curry questionable tonight. Andrew Wiggins was on a minutes limit his first game back. He is not listed on the injury report. Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala are listed as probable. The Warriors are taking on the Suns. You just mentioned are going to be without DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker tonight. So what's your expectation? This looks like a rather, soft landing spot if they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
bring Steph back. But what is your expectation after seeing Andrew Wiggins play only like 20 minutes in his return
Yeah.
and start? I mean, we got the information that he was starting, got the information
Mm-hmm.
that there was a minutes limit. We thought the minutes limit would be like 25. So we
Mm-hmm.
took an over on him. That was a pretty light over. He could have still hit it in 20 minutes if he had
Mm-hmm.
shot a little bit better. But 20 was surprising for the starting role. If he had come off the bench, I would have been like, okay, like 20 makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Wiggins' progression from a minutes perspective? And this was a game that they were playing from behind. They could have brought him back
Mm-hmm.
in and tried to get the game late. But what is your expectation for Wiggins' minutes projection? Steph, if he's available tonight, what his minutes progression looks like, and then if you have any concerns about Clay as well.
Yeah, so let's start with Steph. And here, I'll bring up the doc because I did a lot of digging on this. I did all the Steve Kerr pressers. So you can sort of see some of the stuff he was saying. I'm going to bring up the timeline. I did the notes on the timeline right here. So got injured on the 14th. They had a 2-week re-eval on the 24th. He got shots up that day on that re-eval too, and then got a full practice in January 6th. Said there was pretty much no limit. First real reps, felt good. He's beating his timetable. Remember, Shams Charania said that he was supposed to be back January 13th. Got a full practice in yesterday, and this was a full practice with Draymond not practicing, Looney not practicing, and some other high minute guys, according to Steve Kerr, not practicing because he wanted to just keep their minutes down because they've been playing a ton. So really all signs from his shoulder injury, he's been able to ramp up. Mentioned he's been getting shots up for a month and a half, pretty much. Or I'm sorry, a half a month, excuse me. So signs are pretty good. Shoulder injuries you can ramp up pretty quick. Conditioning wise, he said he was feeling pretty good. Steve Kerr, giving a full practice, 2 full practices in here. Sounds like he's got a pretty good chance. Probably not full. We saw him come off the bench in the playoffs last year, which is probably why we're being a little cautious on the minutes. But I feel pretty good about Steph playing and playing more than Wiggins did. Just given the timeline, Wiggins was so odd, right? Had the groin injury, was really sick. Missed 4 or 5 games from illness. So I think those two things parlayed together really cut him down. So I would expect Curry to play pretty close to full. DiVincenzo would obviously be affected probably the most. I wouldn't be totally shocked if they bring Poole off the bench. They don't need DiVincenzo nearly as much anymore now that they have Andrew Wiggins back, and they don't need the point of attack defense, which they don't need at all because the Suns just don't have anybody to attack them. Although Dwayne Washington was pretty good. Talk about him in a second. But so I feel pretty good about him. Clay was just a precaution. Said he's dealing with kind of aches and pains as he gets to be a little bit older and 32 now. So that's something to watch. I would expect Wiggins to ramp up. He went through practice as well, so they're trying to ramp up as well. So I would expect him to be kind of mid-ish 20s, maybe upper 20s. Okay. I think getting that first notch on the old belt, returning from a long absence, was a big step there. But plus, too, we talked about this too, and we spent a lot of time on the Wiggins projection because generally when guys return from soft tissue injuries for the Warriors, they're pretty strict on it. They're like low 20s consistently. And we thought that given the situation with the illness, that it could ramp up a little bit quicker, which was wrong. But Steph's different. This isn't a soft tissue thing. This isn't a ramp up thing, groin injury, hamstring, quad, etc. So I think Steph's good. I actually think Steph will play more minutes than Wiggins today.
All right. Let's move on to let's tackle the Suns while we're there on the other side of that game. No Chris Paul, no Devin Booker, no DeAndre Ayton tonight for Phoenix. In addition, on their injury report, Torrey Craig was questionable. Did we get an update on him or Landry Shamet? They were both listed questionable as well.
It sounds like they're going to be good. I saw I'm the most fashionable man in the NBA now because I follow NBA fashion, meaning starters jerseys. But Torrey Craig had a starters jersey on, so I'm expecting him to start. They're ruling out Ayton. Not surprised. I was going to say Ayton's probably a lean out. This is the same left ankle he hurt last month. It cost him some time. He's hurt this ankle before. Not great news for him. So getting ruled out early is probably meaning a multi-game absence there. So
they also are on the front end of a back-to-back. They play Denver tomorrow. So a lot of these questionable tags on the front end of a back-to-back, sometimes they can be legitimate and guys are ruled out. Sometimes it can be like, hey, he's not ready to go. Let's see if we can get him tomorrow. Type thing. But
I mean, just given the circumstance, I think this is the 4th time he's hurt this left ankle, including, like I said, the last month. So I didn't see a starter jersey on Jock Landale, so this would lead me to believe that Bismack Biyombo is going to start, which I would have led without that information. I think he was going to start anyways. Shamit should be good. I think they like the Dwayne Washington off the bench minutes. He was really, really good against the Cavs. So expecting a starting lineup. I think Sharch probably goes away. Wasn't wearing a starter's jersey as well. So I think they would go to Damian Lee because I think they really trust Dwayne Washington to kind of anchor that second unit. Damian Lee revenge game as well. So I think the starting lineup is going to be Shamit if you can go, Washington if you can't, Damian Lee, Mikal, Torrey Craig, and Bismack.
Yeah. And it would also make sense, like the Sharch starting thing could have been just matchup specific size
100%.
Against Cleveland, and Golden State doesn't have that kind of size at the 4 spot. So with Draymond, so it's definitely a spot where you could see Damian Lee get the spot start with his family potentially returning, his brother-in-law potentially returning there with stuff. So.
Oh, did I lose you? I think I may have lost your sound. Yep, I think we did.
And
there we go. You're back.
Okay, 1 second. I don't understand. It just like randomly switches on or off. I don't get it. Okay. Let's move on to the Detroit and Philadelphia game. On the Detroit side, questionable tag for Isaiah Livers. No Jalen Duren and no Bojan Bogdanovic for Detroit in this one. That opens up a lot of scoring opportunities for the Detroit guys. Tough matchup, obviously, against Philadelphia. They got blown out in the first end of this 2-game series. What are your leans on how the Pistons try to replace Bojan Bogdanovic?
Yeah, so the easy answer would have been Sadiq Bey, right? But they're missing other pieces, and I think the matchup is important to note here that we saw them go with Isaiah Livers in the Luka game, and we'll never forget we cashed his over the day he got hurt. We cashed it in like 4 minutes, so that's something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I think that there's a chance that he comes out and starts if he can go. If not, I mean, Hamidou Diallo season, I think makes some sense. But I think they want to play Livers, and they definitely need the spacing. Killian Hayes has been playing great. Killian Hayes obviously benefits in a big way. He's been playing really well lately. Jaden Ivey benefits a little bit, but I would expect Hamidou Diallo, Kevin Knox a little bit, and then if Isaiah Livers can go, I think those guys are going to benefit the most. And I don't think Alec Burks is going to be affected too much. I have a little more ceiling though.
You mentioned spacing as a need. Would Kevin Knox be a candidate to move into the starting lineup if Isaiah Livers were unavailable?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's pretty good. They seem to like him quite a bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they're really starting to thin out at the 4 and 5 spots because no Duren moves Isaiah Stewart to the 5 exclusively. Nerlens Noel his backup 5. So those are all the 5 minutes, and then you look at the 4. And now you're basically down to, you don't have Marvin Bagley, so you don't have Bojan Bogdanovic, so you're down to like Sadiq Bey, Kevin Knox, Diallo or Livers could certainly play that role. And then, if you're without Livers, that translates over to being light at the 3 as well. So like it's kind of a trickle down effect that could see a tighter rotation tonight on the whole. You might even see Rodney McGruder kind of slide into the starting, not in the starting lineup, but into the rotation as well. For Detroit, and obviously a lot of blowout risk in this game as they got waxed last time out. On the other side, Joel Embiid is questionable, which is the big questionable tag for Philadelphia tonight. They were able to handle the Pistons with ease without Embiid last game, so I'm kind of thinking they take the more cautious approach here, just generally. But what are your thoughts on how likely it is we see Embiid tonight? No back-to-backs involved here. The only teams on back-to-backs today are Phoenix and Detroit. Detroit is on a back-to-back. Philadelphia is not. But what are your thoughts on Embiid tonight?
Yeah, what's your shoot around? Was never really much concern. We saw this injury pop up. I think he got the midday Q tag on this foot thing, which I mentioned was a bigger concern because he's had this injury before. So just like Ayton, right? Foot injuries on big men, it's dangerous territory. So I think he'd have to be 100% to go. I think there's a good chance he is out there. PJ Tucker also threw shoot around. So Would expect him to probably start, which puts the squeeze on the starting lineup decision, right? Do they not even? I mean, there's not a lot of size out there. They're not going to have Boyan. Sadiq Bey is not really a big four. Do they just bring Tucker out the bench in the spot? I think it makes a ton of sense to do that. So that's something we'll be watching here. But I'm expecting Embiid to give it a go.
All right. Continuing on with the questionable tags on this slate. Well, we talked through Phoenix, so let's talk through Dallas. Luka, you got starter's jersey information for us regarding Luka's questionable tag today?
Yeah. Tim McMahon, kind enough to share that he had a starter's jersey on, just got ruled basically, and he got called probable technically. Brad Townsend, beat reporters, said he's in. So, yeah, should expect full minutes out of Luka. Really just a maintenance game. It was odd, very unusual to see him get the Q tag initially. That's, they usually just list him probable the next time. So, good sign. He should be ready to go. That'll be pushing Reggie Bullock likely. No, that'll probably push Powell back to the bench. Sorry about that. Yeah, so they'll have the small lineup. They seem to like Wood down there.
All right, and we can move to the doubtful out tags. Clippers, no Kennard, no Paul George tonight. We've seen this a bit from the Clippers of late. Any news or notes you want to share on the Clips?
Yeah, a lot. We saw a big significant lineup change over the weekend with Terrence Mann getting the start and handling a pretty good amount of the ball. Paul George, still going to be out. And we saw Reggie Jackson get totally cut, or not totally, 8 minutes cut, as he was basically straight backup. And Ty Lue said after the game that he liked how they played. He said they're going to continue to look at this. We know Ty Lue is a guy. He always talks about getting good samples of games. So I would expect him to start Mann again, which is great. He's going to be in trouble. Him and Marcus Morris probably share the Luka matchup. So Terrence Mann kind of goes from outhouse to penthouse as far as role goes. He was kind of barely in the rotation when this team was fully healthy. So could be a big role coming his way. We'll see how Zubats is affected. Zubats has been a mixed bag in this Luka matchup. We've seen him guard Luka a lot. We've seen him get played off the floor from Luka a lot. So a lot of ways it can go there. Kawhi, big minutes, 38, looks to be up to speed. Ty Lue was really happy with his play. So he looks like he's ready for a pretty big role tonight. And then everything else besides is mostly unchanged. Norman Powell, minutes have been really good. He's also benefiting from this Reggie Jackson thing just going completely sideways because Lue has just kind of had it with we talk about this a lot. Like their defensive stats are so misleading. They don't have like really strong ball handling defenders, especially without PG and Kawhi. So makes sense. So I expect Mann to play a lot here.
The other thing to note here is with Reggie Jackson getting cut down severely. I mean, this was basically an 8-man rotation. You can combine Moses Brown and Reggie Jackson and come up with 18 minutes, and that's basically an 8th man. So really tight rotation, really heavy minutes upside for the starters. Zubats 38, Kawhi 38, Terrence Mann 35. And that Zubats heavy minutes ceiling came with Batum starting alongside him at the power forward spot. So another inkling there that if they continue to start this like bigger lineup that offers them some more defensive potential, it probably is good for Zubats' ceiling just generally because, they really like to play Batum normally as the small ball 5. And if he's starting out there next to him as the 4, it's obviously harder to do that. So there's a lot of upside there. Chat asking, why would Kawhi not guard Luka?
Why would he? I mean, he didn't want to ask anymore out of Kawhi. I don't think Kawhi will get that matchup. He hasn't really picked up too many big defensive responsibilities.
So something important.
I mean, if he did, that speaks volumes that they're like ready to give this guy all the workload.
Yeah. So a guy like Kawhi, who's clearly got the reputation of being their best defender, but also has all these workload concerns, all these injury concerns, is not going to pick up those types of defensive assignments until the chips are down, until the playoffs situations. They're going to try to do everything they can to manage his health during the course of the season. And he's already carrying a very big offensive responsibility, so it would be unlikely that he'd get the primary defensive responsibility as well. That's something that you see happen routinely, like LeBron, as he's gotten older, doesn't pick up the primary defensive guys. They let them kind of roam defensively so they can carry the offensive weight. And then in the playoffs at times, you will see LeBron or older veteran guys take on the more meaningful defensive responsibility. Oftentimes it'll just be like crunch time situations too. It won't even be like the whole game.
Yeah. And he's a point guard. That's a huge. And it's like sometimes he guards like Jaylen Brown and someone like guarding Luka is just a horse of a different color.
All right, let's move to Gordon Hayward, still doubtful for Charlotte. Kelly Oubre out. They transferred the contract for Taylor Maladon as well, just as another accounting note. What are your thoughts on the Hornets tonight?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. We saw a rumor pop up today about McDaniels, so that's something to watch. But he's been playing a ton of minutes, on-ball defender as well. So they are going to need that matchup here. He'll probably have to guard McDaniels will have to guard Pascal Siakam here. So really tough ask, but I'd expect him to play quite a bit. You definitely need his length in the spot. So pretty straightforward. Should see pretty similar rotations there. And we'll see Cody Martin, who couldn't make a freaking shot for us over the weekend, but did get the minutes, partly because, and should mention, Lamelo was in foul trouble. Clifford didn't doghouse him. He thought it was just like him trying. It wasn't like stupid mistakes. We know Borrego kind of really doghoused him. So I wouldn't expect Lamelo to be punished for fouling out in the last game, assuming he could avoid the fouls.
Yeah, and we've seen the really heavy minutes from the main guys in the absence of Oubre and Hayward. They just don't have a ton of confidence in their bench depth. It helps getting Cody Martin back. It helps getting Dennis Smith Jr. back, certainly. But we've seen like Mason Plumlee like get into the 30s. And shout out to Plumlee, 6 of 6 from the free throw line last game is quite the mark for a guy that was shooting with the wrong hand for half his NBA career. Okay, let's talk about Oklahoma City. Still lacking depth inside. They're playing Miami tonight. They're without Alexei Pokusevski, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Ousmane Dieng, and Chet Holmgren. So they're down a lot of bigs. Darius Bazley has not gotten any of the opportunities when they've been down all these bigs. What's your expectation for OKC tonight as they deal with a Miami team that could be forced to play? Well, they actually, I was going to say they could be forced to play smaller. They can't play smaller. They have to play with the big guys because they're just down so many guys. So what are your thoughts on OKC's big man rotation tonight?
Yeah, Terrence Williams got really talked up. They seem to like this role with him and down there. And as you mentioned, not a really big imposing force. So it's kind of like Orlando Robinson's more of like a floor space who doesn't like pound you like an Embiid or Jokic or those guys. So definitely get away with it. I feel pretty confident that they'll be sticking with the same starting lineup. Curious to see if Jalen Williams comes back in the rotation. They went with Omiyuri as kind of the backup. And Lindy Waters, really impactful game, got talked up a ton, unprompted. I asked questions about him. So I think Lindy's kind of earned minutes. That could cut down Stroke and Joe, Trey Mann. You don't really need Muscala in this spot either with the post defense. So I'm curious to see if he fits. Maybe Jalen Williams takes his spot as they kind of rotate him back in there. But and they don't. And they I would. We'll probably see a little more Aaron Wiggins just to make sure they cover the Jimmy minutes. He'll be kind of behind Lou Dort. So that's something to watch there.
Do you think they start with this smaller unit with Kenrich Williams essentially as their 5 once again?
Yeah, he's Dagnall seemed pretty confident that he liked that unit. So I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't go that way again.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to Utah, who will be without Colin Sexton, Talen Horton-Tucker, Kelly Olynyk, all on the injury report tonight. They do get Simone Fontecchio back, which is a piece of big man depth that might be important when you're without Kelly Olynyk and Talen Horton-Tucker. They've kind of used a little bit as a forward at times this year. We've seen there was a 4-game stretch earlier that Kelly Olynyk missed, and Vanderbilt and Walker Kessler were the primary beneficiaries in terms of seeing their minutes rise. But they have Fontecchio now. They have Rudy Gay. There's definitely ways that they could spread this around. The matchup is important, though, against Cleveland's Twin Towers with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. What are your thoughts on how Utah adjusts tonight?
Yeah, we saw them go double big. We were kind of surprised at that at first. So there's really no sign that that's not going to happen. Walker Kessler with 6 blocks in the last game got talked up a lot after the game. So I would expect him to play pretty good minutes. We'll see if we can avoid some fouls from Jared Vanderbilt. Clarkson got dinged up. I think he's okay, though. But yeah, I expect him to play a little bit smaller because they want to play Ochai Agbaji. He's been really carving minutes out. He's been playing pretty well. Had an off game last time, but he's been shooting extremely well. More floor space, and his team wants to shoot more threes. So I don't think Simone will get back in there. I think Agbaji's kind of taking his cookies here. So I think that they'll play, generally a little bit smaller except for the starting unit.
Okay, and then probables and returns. Gary Payton should be back tonight for Portland. Yusuf Nurkic with the probable tag. Once again, expectations for the Blazers.
Pretty straightforward. We just saw that they played a lot of their starters again. That is a huge trend we're seeing night in, night out. This game was it had some garbage time, and they still got 42 minutes from Ant, 41 from Dame. He just started. Billups went early to the starters in the fourth just because he had like one last stand, custard style, and they couldn't pull out the win. So yeah, we've been talking about this a lot in every DFS show and on this show. Just like, oh my god, the upside just so high on these starters. And Billups had a comment after the game saying like, it's unfortunate we're counting on teenagers to fill out the back end of our rotation. He does not like playing these young dudes. So there's just against Orlando, who's been. I mean, we just saw them got wrecked by the Kings last night. There's so much upside on these Blazers guys. I smell a possible jersey for me later today.
I'm interested to see if they make a move at the deadline to get a little bit more veteran depth. I mean, Chauncey Billups is basically begging for it in every presser, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what kind of assets they have to move around. I think they're pretty light on assets right now, so would be interesting to see if there's anything that they could do there. Okay, other notes. Magic are on the second night of a back-to-back, but Bol should be back in the rotation tonight for them. He'd been out with health and safety protocols and was expected to return today. How do you think his return potentially impacts things for the Magic, and do you have any concerns about them on the second night of a back-to-back?
I do not. We've seen Garrett Harris's minutes be kind of solidified, didn't play a bunch. I think that we want to mention with Bol is the amount of players who have returned from protocols and either don't even play. Herb Jones is the example there, among others. Who else am I forgetting? Keita Bates-Diop, another guy, illness, not even protocol. So we've seen guys who are cleared still don't play. So if he's not starting, you can't go there. I think that's mostly it. As far as the minutes they got blown out. They lit the beam up, or they were calling to light the beam up early last night. The Kings are just completely smashing. So I think that they'll be pretty close to full here. We just got to keep an eye on how they use Bol.
Okay, and then you had a note on Toronto regarding Precious Achiuwa that you wanted to share. I assume a Nick Nurse presser that we are rotating the favored big men around these days with Toronto.
Yeah, so he was saying that he wants to get Precious eventually to the mid-20s, and he wants to make him the first sub eventually. So not there yet, but I would expect Precious to play a little bit more here. Koloko also played pretty well recently as well. So, could be doghouse for Boucher once again, as we are very much accustomed to here. But, he talked to Precious quite a bit. I think that he's going to start to play, maybe teens, low teens, and then kind of progressing to low 20s.
All right. Any other notes that came in while we're about to hit another 2:30 injury report? So any other notes that have come in that we didn't cover? I think we got the Phoenix stuff. I think that was the main thing that came in, but just wanted to see if there's anything else. I don't think so.
No, I don't see anything.
Okay.
That's it. But yeah, shout out to the subs who had a pretty good day yesterday.
Yeah, I think in general, projections were pretty solid last night. I think we talked through a lot of spots on the show that certainly made sense. We talked about liking Memphis quite a bit. Talked about liking Jalen Brunson quite a bit. Shout out to Nick, who just took home everything, including the Sicko, the Discord tournament, which is the most prized. I know. $45 might be the thing that catches your eye compared to the 100,000 or the 20,000 or the multiple 5,000s. Sure, maybe the $45 doesn't stick out to you, but the clout that Nick gets for the Discord Sicko Championship is really, really what warms his heart and his bank account. Crypto Kevin, shout out to you for the top 5 finish on FanDuel yesterday as well. Saw in Discord it sounded like it was a rough beat towards the end of the game, but great job making runs at stuff. Thank you for those of you who do subscribe to our premium content and getting the most out of it. Your success is awesome, and we love to share in it in whatever small part we played. So thank you to you guys for shouting us out as well.
Here's Kevin's screenshot. I'll get Kevin up there.
Yeah, those payout structures on FanDuel are brutal.
Whoa.
You can see a tenth of a point is the difference between 100,000 and 20,000, and you can see 3
3
points
points
is the
away.
difference between 100,000 and 5,000. It's just these payout structures in DFS are just such a struggle. They just put such an emphasis in Capital, who finished 4th and 7th there. I'm pretty sure is a sub as well. But yeah, it's just the payout structures, man. I really wish, if there's one thing I could change in DFS, it's these payout structures being just a little bit more balanced, so that people's entire years aren't decided by whether they finish 5th or 1st, which is really what's happening these days. Okay. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running, in addition to many formats of NFL playoff contests, still running for huge prizes. I've been in the gauntlet many a times in the last 24 hours. I will continue to be drafting in the gauntlet. You can catch me in there. Probably not the mitten. I gotta be a little bit more thoughtful about how I'm spending my time than the $5 fast drafts. I'm gonna keep them to the $25. So my hourly rate is at least acceptable. But yeah, you can catch me there. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. And if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. It's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right. Myself and Mike Gallagher will be behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight, breaking down this 7-game slate from a DFS perspective. We will have plenty of takes. They will be shared. Hopefully you will use them to turn our takes into cold, hard dollars for you. If you are uninterested in joining us behind the paywall with the premium subscription, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel and paying us with your hard-earned clicks. You could also smash that like button and help circulate the content within the algorithm, so we can continue providing this great free content for you. As always, feed the algorithm, help us feed our families. We'll keep feeding you the injury report analysis you need to make great prop bets and make your DFS lineups soar up the leaderboards. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.